There's a tree that grows 15 feet in a single year, not 15 inches, not 15 feet over a decade, 15 feet in 12 months. A tree you could plant today and look up at next year. Most trees grow 1 to 2 feet per year. Oak trees grow 12 inches. Maple trees grow 18 inches. The trees that lumber companies harvest take 30 to 50 years to reach maturity. An entire human career passes waiting for a single harvest. This tree reaches harvest size in 5 years. The same lumber that takes oak 50 years to produce, this tree produces in 5. The same firewood that takes maple 30 years to grow, this tree grows in 3. The same timber that costs thousands of dollars per acre to produce, this tree produces at a fraction of the cost in a fraction of the time. This tree burns hotter than coal. The wood produces 9,500 BTUs per pound. Coal produces 8,000 to 9,000 BTUs per pound. The tree that grows faster than any other hardwood also burns more intensely than fossil fuels. A single acre of this tree produces enough firewood to heat a home for a decade. Planted today, harvested in 3 years, heating your house for 10, then it regrows from the stump and you harvest again and again and again. The same roots producing fuel forever. This tree absorbs more carbon than any other temperate species. Because it grows so fast, it pulls carbon dioxide from the atmosphere at rates that climate scientists call extraordinary. 1 acre of this tree absorbs 100 tons of carbon dioxide per year. 10 acres absorb what 1,000 cars emit. A single farm of these trees could offset the emissions of an entire town. This tree is illegal to plant in 46 American states. Not regulated, not restricted. Illegal. The act of putting this seed in the ground is a crime. The nurseries that sell it can be fined. The landowners who grow it can be prosecuted. The official reason is that the tree is invasive. It spreads too easily. It outcompetes native species. It threatens ecosystems. The real reason is that this tree threatens industries worth hundreds of billions of dollars. The timber industry cannot compete with a tree that grows 10 times faster than their plantations. The coal industry cannot compete with a fuel that regrows after harvest. The carbon credit industry cannot compete with a solution that actually works. So they banned it. They classified it as a noxious weed. They added it to invasive species lists. They made it illegal to plant the most useful tree on Earth. Today we are opening the file on the tree that grows faster than any other hardwood. The wood that burns hotter than coal. The species that could solve the energy crisis and the climate crisis simultaneously, and the industries that made sure you would never be allowed to plant it. If this matters to you, subscribe and hit the bell. The file is open. The tree is called Paulownia. The scientific name is Paulownia tomentosa, though several related species share similar characteristics. It is also called the Empress Tree, the Princess Tree, the Royal Paulownia, and the Dragon Tree. The names reflect its status in Asian culture. This is the tree of royalty, the tree of wealth, the tree that emperors planted and empresses treasured. The tree is native to China, where it has been cultivated for over 3,000 years. The oldest texts of Chinese civilization mention Paulownia. The tree appears in artwork from the Shang Dynasty, 1600 years before Christ. It was ancient when Rome was founded. It was venerable when the pyramids were new. For 3,000 years, the Chinese have known what Americans are forbidden to learn. This tree is the most valuable plant that can be grown on land. The Japanese discovered Paulownia when Chinese culture spread across the sea. They adopted the tree with the intensity that defines Japanese craftsmanship. They elevated it to sacred status. The imperial seal of Japan features the Paulownia flower. The highest honor the emperor can bestow is the Order of the Paulownia Sun. The tree represents the Japanese nation itself. This is not how you treat a weed. The Chinese and Japanese tradition around Paulownia centers on daughters and weddings. When a daughter is born, the family plants a Paulownia tree. The tree grows with the daughter. By the time she reaches marriageable age, typically 15 to 20 years in traditional culture, the tree has reached substantial size. The tree is harvested, and the wood is made into furniture, a dresser, a chest, a wardrobe. The furniture becomes the daughter's dowry. She carries with her into marriage a gift that grew alongside her, a gift that will last for centuries. The furniture made from Paulownia is extraordinarily light. A Paulownia dresser weighs half what an oak dresser weighs. A woman can move her own furniture without help. In an era before moving companies, this mattered. The furniture made from Paulownia is extraordinarily stable. The wood does not warp with humidity changes. It does not crack with temperature swings. It does not absorb moisture from the air. Silks and linens stored in Paulownia chests remain pristine for generations. The furniture made from Paulownia is extraordinarily beautiful. The grain is subtle and elegant. The color is honey gold, warming with age. The wood accepts lacquer and polish with a glow that no other species matches. Japanese families have Paulownia furniture that is 400 years old. The chests that held a grandmother's kimono now hold her great-great-great-great-granddaughter as wedding dress. The wood remains perfect because Paulownia wood approaches immortality. A tree that grows in 15 years produces furniture that lasts 400 years. This is not how invasive weeds behave. The wood properties of Paulownia defy conventional understanding. Paulownia is classified as a hardwood. It comes from a flowering tree, not a conifer. By botanical definition, it belongs in the same category as oak and maple and walnut. But Paulownia is lighter than most softwoods. It weighs approximately 18 pounds per cubic foot. Pine weighs 25 pounds. Cedar weighs 23 pounds. Oak weighs 45 pounds. The lightest commercially available hardwood on Earth grows faster than any other tree. This combination seems impossible. Fast-growing trees produce soft, weak, heavy wood saturated with moisture. Grows faster than any other tree. This combination seems impossible. Fast-growing trees produce soft, weak, heavy wood saturated with moisture. That is the rule. Paulownia violates the rule. The strength-to-weight ratio of Paulownia exceeds aluminum. Engineers measure this ratio to determine how much load a material can bear relative to its own weight. Aluminum is prized in aerospace because it is strong yet light. Paulownia matches this ratio using wood that grows on trees. Japanese aircraft in World War II used Paulownia for components where weight mattered and strength was essential. The wood that made wedding furniture also made fighter planes. The same properties serve both purposes. Paulownia has the lowest moisture content of any green wood. Where other trees contain 50 to 70% moisture when freshly cut, Paulownia contains 30 to 40%. Less moisture means less energy wasted turning water to steam. More energy goes to heat production. Paulownia also contains resins and oils that increase combustion temperature. The same compounds that make the wood resistant to rot and insects make it burn with intensity that surpasses most hardwoods. The BTU content, the measure of heat energy, reaches 9,500 per pound. A cord of Paulownia firewood produces more heat than a cord of oak, despite weighing less. You can carry more fuel with less effort and generate more warmth when you burn it. The growth rate of Paulownia must be seen to be believed. In optimal conditions, with adequate water and nutrients, Paulownia seedlings grow 15 feet in their first year. This is not an exaggeration. This is not a typo. 15 feet in 12 months. The second year, the growth continues, another 10 to 12 feet. By the end of year 2, the tree may reach 25 feet in height. By year 5, the tree reaches 50 feet in height and 12 inches in diameter. This is harvestable timber. This is saw log size. What takes oak 50 years takes Paulownia 5. The explanation lies in the leaves. Paulownia leaves are enormous. They can reach 2 feet across. These giant leaves are solar collectors on a scale that other trees cannot match. More leaf surface means more photosynthesis. More photosynthesis means more sugar production. More sugar means more growth. The mathematics is simple. The results are dramatic. The leaves also shade out competition. Where a Paulownia grows, little else can survive beneath it. The canopy captures so much light that the understory remains dark. This is one reason the tree is called invasive. It dominates any space it occupies. But dominance is not necessarily invasion. Oak trees also dominate their spaces. Maple trees also shade out competition. We do not call them invasive because they grow slowly enough that we accept their dominance. Paulownia's crime is speed. It achieves in years what other trees achieve in decades. This makes it impossible to ignore. This makes it frightening to industries that depend on slow growth and limited supply. The timber industry operates on a simple principle. Scarcity creates value. Trees that take 50 years to harvest create permanent scarcity. Supply is always limited because production takes a human lifetime. Prices remain high because supply never catches up with demand. Paulownia destroys this model. A landowner who plants Paulownia can harvest in 5 years. They can sell timber while their oak trees are still saplings. They can undercut prices that traditional timber companies charge. If Paulownia became widespread, timber prices would collapse. The artificial scarcity that props up the industry would evaporate. The companies that own millions of acres of slow-growing trees would see their assets devalued overnight. This is why the timber industry has supported invasive species designations for Paulownia. The industry funds research into invasive species. They support lobbying for restrictive regulations. They promote the narrative that Paulownia is a dangerous weed that threatens native ecosystems. The research they fund finds what they pay for. Studies conclude that Paulownia is invasive. Regulations follow the research. The tree becomes illegal. This pattern is not unique to Paulownia. Any species that threatens established industries faces similar treatment. The research is structured to produce predetermined conclusions. The regulations follow to protect profits. The invasive species argument deserves examination. Yes, Paulownia spreads readily. The tree produces millions of seeds per year. The seeds are small and winged. They travel on wind for miles. Where they land in disturbed soil with adequate light, they germinate. This describes many trees. Maples produce millions of winged seeds. Cottonwoods produce clouds of fluffy seeds that drift for miles. Willows spread along every waterway. We do not ban these trees. Paulownia spreads into disturbed areas. It colonizes roadsides, clear cuts, abandoned lots, and burned forests. It rarely invades intact forest because it cannot tolerate shade. Mature forest understory is too dark for Paulownia seedlings. This pattern describes an early successional species, not an invasive destroyer. Paulownia fills gaps in damaged ecosystems. It stabilizes soil after disturbance. It provides shade that allows other species to establish beneath it. Ecologists who study forest succession recognize this pattern. Pioneer species colonize disturbed areas. They modify conditions to favor later species. Eventually, they are replaced by shade-tolerant trees that could not have established without the pioneers. Paulownia is a pioneer. It creates conditions for other trees to follow. It does not destroy forests. It initiates them. The invasion narrative ignores this complexity. It treats any non-native species as automatically harmful. It ignores the ecological role that Paulownia plays. It ignores the benefits that fast-growing trees provide. The narrative serves the timber industry. It does not serve ecological understanding. The coal industry has equal reason to fear Paulownia. Coal is the traditional fuel for heating and electricity generation. Despite the rise of natural gas and renewables, coal remains significant in American energy production. Coal is also finite. It took millions of years to form. Once burned, it is gone forever. The supply diminishes with every ton extracted. Paulownia is renewable. Cut it down and it regrows from the stump. The practice is called coppicing. It has been used for thousands of years to produce continuous fuel from the same rootstock. A coppiced Paulownia plantation produces harvestable fuel every 3 to 5 years. The roots send up new shoots after harvest. The shoots grow 15 feet per year. Within 3 years, harvestable poles are ready. The same acre produces fuel indefinitely. No mining, no depletion, no environmental destruction from extraction, just trees growing, trees harvested, trees regrowing. The heat content matches coal. The renewability exceeds any fossil fuel. The carbon footprint is neutral because the trees absorb carbon as they grow, then release it when burned, then absorb it again as they regrow. Coal cannot compete with this model. Neither can the industries that depend on coal. If Americans knew they could grow their own fuel, the demand for coal would collapse. If communities planted Paulownia plantations for district heating, the coal supply chain would become irrelevant. The industry has lobbied to keep Paulownia restricted. They have supported invasive species designations. They have funded research that emphasizes harm and ignores benefit. They have made it illegal to plant the tree that could replace them. The carbon sequestration potential of Paulownia has attracted attention from climate scientists. The fundamental challenge of climate change is carbon dioxide accumulation in the atmosphere. Fossil fuel burning releases carbon that was stored for millions of years. The carbon traps heat. The planet warms. Trees absorb carbon dioxide as they grow. They incorporate the carbon into their wood, their roots, their leaves. A growing forest is a carbon sink, removing carbon from the atmosphere and storing it in biomass. The faster a tree grows, the more carbon it absorbs. This is simple mathematics. Growth equals carbon capture. Paulownia grows faster than any other temperate hardwood. Therefore, Paulownia captures more carbon than any other temperate hardwood. Researchers at the University of Arizona measured carbon uptake in Paulownia plantations. They documented absorption rates of 100 tons of carbon dioxide per acre per year. This is 10 times the rate of typical forest. 1 million acres of Paulownia could absorb 100 million tons of carbon dioxide per year. 10 million acres could absorb 1 billion tons. This approaches the scale needed to impact atmospheric concentrations. The tree that is illegal to plant could be the solution to the climate crisis. The carbon credit industry has noticed. They sell credits based on forest carbon sequestration. They calculate credits using standard formulas that assume slow-growing trees. If Paulownia were included in credit calculations, it would dominate the market. Credits from Paulownia plantations would cost a fraction of credits from traditional forests. The price of carbon offsets would collapse. The companies that sell expensive credits from slow-growing forests do not want this competition. They have supported restrictions on Paulownia. They have funded research questioning its carbon permanence. They have lobbied against including it in offset programs. The industry that claims to fight climate change opposes the tree that could actually solve it. The economics of scarcity trump the ethics of solutions. The Paulownia's other properties make it even more valuable. The wood is naturally fire resistant. The bark can withstand temperatures that would destroy other trees. In Asian construction, Paulownia has been used for fire barriers. Buildings burned around Paulownia elements that remained intact. This seems contradictory. A wood that burns hot should not be fire resistant, but the properties are compatible. Paulownia burns hot when it catches fire, but catching fire requires sustained exposure. Brief exposure to flame does not ignite it. The explanation lies in the structure of the wood. The cell walls are thick and dense with compounds that resist ignition. Once burning, these same compounds fuel intense combustion, but getting the fire started requires effort. In wildfire conditions, this resistance matters. Paulownia stands have survived fires that destroyed surrounding forests. The trees lose their leaves but survive to regrow. A Paulownia firebreak can stop fire spread. The wood is naturally rot resistant. The same compounds that resist fire resist fungi and bacteria. Paulownia fence posts outlast oak fence posts by decades. Paulownia siding weather is better than cedar. The wood is naturally insect resistant. Termites avoid it. Borers avoid it. The compounds that protect against rot also protect against pests. These properties make Paulownia ideal for construction. Lightweight, strong, rot-resistant, fire-resistant, insect-resistant wood that grows in 5 years instead of 50. The construction industry should embrace this material. Instead, building codes often prohibit it because it comes from a restricted species. The regulations that protect the timber industry extend into construction. The ability of Paulownia to remediate contaminated soil has attracted scientific attention. The tree is a hyperaccumulator of heavy metals. It absorbs lead, cadmium, zinc, and other contaminants from soil and stores them in its tissues. Contaminated soil becomes cleaner as the trees grow. This process is called phytoremediation. It uses plants to remove pollution. It is cheaper than mechanical soil cleanup. It is less destructive than excavation. It actually improves the land while cleaning it. Paulownia excels at phytoremediation because it grows so fast. The faster the growth, the more contaminants absorbed. A Paulownia plantation cleans soil faster than any other tree. The trees can then be harvested and burned. The contaminants concentrate in the ash, which can be disposed of properly. The volume requiring disposal is a tiny fraction of the original contaminated soil. Abandoned mines, industrial sites, and polluted farmland could be rehabilitated using Paulownia. The trees would clean the soil, produce valuable timber, and sequester carbon simultaneously. This technology is proven. It has been demonstrated in research trials. It is ready for deployment. It remains largely unused because the tree is illegal to plant where contamination is worst. The propagation of Paulownia is remarkably easy. The tree produces millions of seeds that germinate readily. It can be propagated from root cuttings with near-perfect success. It can be propagated from stem cuttings under proper conditions. A single tree can produce enough propagation material to start a plantation. A small plantation can produce enough material to reforest an entire county. This ease of propagation is cited as evidence of invasiveness. The tree spreads because it is easy to spread. But ease of propagation is also economic advantage. Nursery costs for Paulownia are a fraction of costs for slow-growing species. Farmers can start their own seedlings rather than purchasing from nurseries. This threatens the nursery industry, which profits from selling slow-growing trees at high prices. A tree that anyone can propagate is a tree that no one needs to buy. The industry has supported restrictions accordingly. Growing Paulownia in America requires navigating a patchwork of regulations. In some states, Paulownia is completely prohibited. Planting, selling, or transporting the tree is illegal. Violations can result in fines and mandatory removal. In other states, Paulownia is restricted but not prohibited. Planting requires permits. Plantations must be registered. Specific management practices must be followed to prevent spread. In a few states, Paulownia is unregulated. Landowners can plant freely. These states tend to be outside the tree's optimal range, where cold winters or dry summers limit growth. The regulations vary so much that trees legal in one county may be illegal in the adjacent county. The complexity serves no ecological purpose. It serves only to discourage planting. Landowners who want to grow Paulownia must research their local regulations carefully. They must obtain permits where required. They must be prepared to defend their choice against neighbors and officials who have been taught that the tree is dangerous. The restrictions are not insurmountable. They are merely discouraging. This is their purpose. The commercial potential of Paulownia has been recognized internationally. China has expanded Paulownia cultivation to over 7 million acres. The wood is used for furniture, musical instruments, construction, and fuel. The industry employs millions of people. Spain has developed extensive Paulownia plantations for timber and biomass. European regulations are more favorable than American regulations. The industry grows rapidly. Australia has embraced Paulownia for its drought tolerance and fast growth. Plantations supply domestic markets and export to Asia. Brazil has recognized Paulownia's potential for tropical and subtropical regions. Large-scale plantations are under development. America, where Paulownia could grow across most of the country, has restricted it instead. The land best suited for Paulownia cultivation remains planted in slow-growing species or left idle. The economic opportunity foregone is measured in billions of dollars. The environmental opportunity foregone is measured in millions of tons of carbon. The regulatory capture that created this situation is measured in lobbying expenditures and campaign contributions. The situation is not permanent. Several states have begun reconsidering Paulownia restrictions. Research demonstrating the tree's benefits has accumulated. The ecological narrative has begun to shift. Kentucky has developed Paulownia as a crop for reclaimed mine land. The trees stabilize soil, accumulate contaminants, and produce income for communities devastated by the decline of coal. Virginia has permitted experimental Paulownia plantations. The results have exceeded projections. Commercial expansion is under consideration. Academic institutions have established research programs. The University of Kentucky, Virginia Tech, and several other land-grant universities are studying Paulownia, cultivation, and ecology. The shift is slow. The industries that benefit from restriction remain powerful. But the evidence accumulates. The benefits become harder to ignore. The future of Paulownia in America is uncertain but not hopeless. You can grow Paulownia where it is legal. If your state permits cultivation, the process is straightforward. The tree grows readily from seed or cutting. It tolerates a wide range of soil conditions. It requires no fertilization once established. Plant in spring after the last frost. Space trees 10 to 15 feet apart for timber production, closer for biomass production. Water during the first year if rainfall is insufficient. The trees will grow 15 feet the first year if conditions are favorable. They will begin producing usable poles by year 3. They will reach sawlog size by year 5. Harvest by cutting at ground level. The stump will resprout, multiple shoots will emerge. Select the strongest 2 or 3 and remove the rest. These will grow into the next harvest. The cycle repeats indefinitely. Plant once, harvest forever. The wood can be used immediately for firewood. It can be milled into lumber for construction or furniture. It can be sold to buyers who supply the Asian market where Paulownia commands premium prices. A small plantation can provide energy independence. A larger plantation can provide income. The investment is minimal. The return is substantial. If your state prohibits cultivation, you can advocate for change. Contact your state legislators. Explain the benefits of Paulownia. Reference the research that demonstrates its value. Point to the states that permit cultivation without ecological catastrophe. Join organizations that advocate for rational invasive species policy. Support research into Paulownia, cultivation, and ecology. Spread information that counters the narrative promoted by threatened industries. The restrictions exist because industries lobbied for them. The restrictions can be removed if citizens lobby against them. The process is slow but not impossible. Every state that permits Paulownia becomes evidence that prohibition is unnecessary. Every successful plantation demonstrates that benefits exceed risks. Every landowner who profits from Paulownia cultivation becomes an advocate for expansion. The 3,000-year history of Paulownia did not include prohibition. The Chinese cultivated it for millennia without ecological collapse. The Japanese revered it for centuries without environmental disaster. The tree spread across Asia because people valued it, and the continent did not suffer. The prohibition is new. It is American. It is the product of industries protecting profits, not ecologists protecting ecosystems. The tree that grows 15 feet per year remains ready to grow. The wood that burns hotter than coal remains ready to burn. The solution that could address energy and climate and economy simultaneously remains ready to be planted. It waits only for the regulations to change. It waits only for Americans to recognize what Asians have known for 3,000 years, the most useful tree on earth, growing wherever it is permitted, waiting to grow wherever it is not. The industries that banned it hope you never learn what it offers. They hope you continue burning coal and buying slow-grown timber and paying carbon credits to companies that oppose real solutions. They hope the tree remains illegal because legality would destroy them. Now you know. You know that Paulownia grows faster than any other hardwood. You know that it burns hotter than coal. You know that it sequesters more carbon than any other temperate species. You know that it is illegal because it threatens industries worth hundreds of billions of dollars. You know that the ecological arguments are pretexts for economic protection. You know that 3,000 years of Asian cultivation prove the tree is manageable. You know that prohibition is policy, not science. What you do with this knowledge determines what happens next. The tree is waiting. If this video helped you, subscribe and hit the bell. Every share plants what they want banned. The next video opens soon.